The arena was no longer filled with cheers. Instead, there was confusion, anger, and the heavy tension of something about to go terribly wrong. Daniel Holt had done the unthinkable. He had freed the so-called prize of the tournament. Now, the event organizers and the guards stared at him with cold, furious eyes. The auxiliary woman, her silver skin glowing under the lights, stood beside him, her hands free for the first time in who knew how long. "Seize them," one of the organizers shouted. The guards hesitated only for a second, then rushed forward. Daniel knew he couldn't fight all of them, not without a weapon. He grabbed the nearest guard's arm and twisted hard, using his own strength against him. The guard cried out and stumbled, but more were coming. Daniel glanced at the auxiliary woman. "Run." For a brief moment, she didn't move. Then, as if understanding, she turned and sprinted toward the nearest exit. Daniel followed right behind her. The arena was built like a giant stone fortress, with massive doors and high walls. Escaping wouldn't be easy, but Daniel had spent enough time on Zelvar to know the layout. He grabbed the auxiliary woman's wrist and pulled her toward a side passage, a narrow hallway where fewer guards would be stationed. They ran, their footsteps echoing through the stone corridor. Behind them, shouts filled the air as guards gave chase. "Faster," Daniel urged. The woman was quick, her movements graceful. She didn't speak, but she kept up with him, her golden eyes scanning their surroundings. She wasn't just running. She was thinking, analyzing. Ahead, 2 guards appeared, blocking their path. Daniel cursed under his breath. He had no weapons, but he wasn't defenseless. He lunged at the first guard, ducking under a swinging baton and driving his fist into the man's stomach. The guard staggered back. The second one raised a weapon, some kind of energy blade, but before he could strike, the auxiliary woman stepped forward. She didn't attack. Instead, she raised her hand and stared at the guard. For a second, nothing happened. Then the guard's eyes widened. He froze, his grip on the weapon loosening. It was as if he had been caught in some invisible force. Daniel didn't know how she did it, but he wasn't about to waste the opportunity. He grabbed the first guard's baton and swung it at the second, knocking him unconscious. The auxiliary woman lowered her hand, breathing heavily. Whatever she had done had taken effort. Daniel stared at her. "How did you?" "No time," she said softly. Her voice was smooth but firm. He was surprised she could speak his language, but he didn't question it. Not now. They kept moving. Daniel led them through another passageway, dodging more guards. He had one goal: reach the city outside the arena. Once there, they could disappear into the crowd. Finally, they burst through a large door and into the open streets of Zelvar's capital. The city was a maze of towering buildings, glowing lights, and streets filled with people from hundreds of different species. The sounds of alien voices, hovering vehicles, and distant music filled the air. Daniel pulled the woman into a shaded alley, pressing against the wall as a group of guards ran past. They hadn't seen them yet. For a moment, they both caught their breath. Daniel turned to the woman. "You understand me?" he asked. She nodded. "I learned fast." "Good. What's your name?" She hesitated, then spoke. "Ayla." Daniel nodded. "All right, Ayla. We need to get off this planet. Do you have a way?" Ayla looked up at the night sky, where ships hovered in and out of the spaceport. "I know where to go," she said, "but I cannot do it alone." Daniel gave a small smirk. "Lucky for you, you're not alone anymore." Ayla studied him for a moment, as if trying to understand his motives. "Why did you help me?" Daniel's expression hardened. "Because no one should be treated like a prize." Ayla didn't say anything, but something in her eyes softened. In the distance, the sound of alarms grew louder. The city was now searching for them. Daniel pushed off the wall. "Come on, we're not safe yet." Together, they disappeared into the streets, running toward the unknown. The arena was alive with cheers. Thousands of voices echoed through the Grand Colosseum, their excitement shaking the very ground beneath them. Daniel Holt stood in the center, breathing heavily, sweat dripping down his face. The battle had been long and difficult, but he had won. He always did. Daniel was not from this world. He was a traveler, an explorer who had found himself on Zelvar, a planet where strength determined respect. The tournament had been a test of skill, endurance, and strategy. Warriors from different species had fought for the ultimate prize, a reward said to be more valuable than gold or any treasure. As the final opponent fell, the announcer's voice boomed across the arena. Daniel Holt, the human warrior, is victorious. The crowd erupted into wild applause. Many had bet against him, believing the human could never win against the mighty champions of Zelvar. But Daniel had proved them wrong. He had fought with intelligence, speed, and sheer determination. A group of armored guards entered the arena. One of them held a chain, and at the other end of it was a woman. No, not a woman. An alien. She was unlike anyone Daniel had ever seen. Her skin was a soft shade of silver, almost glowing under the arena lights. Her long, flowing hair shimmered like liquid metal. Her eyes, large, deep, and golden, held a quiet strength. Even with her hands bound, she stood tall, her expression calm but unreadable. The champion's prize, the announcer declared, a rare Xilari woman, a treasure from the stars. The crowd cheered once more, but Daniel felt uneasy. He had expected money, maybe a powerful weapon, or something more traditional. But this, a living being, treated as a prize, it didn't sit right with him. The guard pulled on the chain, forcing the woman forward. She didn't resist, but she also didn't submit. Her gaze met Daniel's, and in that moment, something unspoken passed between them. A question, a plea, a challenge. Daniel turned to the event organizers, his jaw tightening. "What is this?" he asked, his voice steady. "The grandest prize of all," one of them replied. "She is yours now. Xilari is rare, powerful, and valuable beyond measure. Do with her as you wish." Daniel looked at the woman again. She didn't speak, but her eyes told him everything. She was no willing participant. She was not here by choice. A heavy silence fell over the arena. The crowd, the announcers, the guards, everyone waited to see what he would do. Then, without hesitation, Daniel reached forward, not for the chain, but for the lock. With a swift motion, he unlatched the cuffs around her wrists. The metal restraints clattered to the ground, and a gasp rippled through the spectators. The Xilari woman rubbed her wrists but remained still, watching him. The guards tensed, waiting for orders. "What are you doing?" one of the organizers demanded. Daniel's voice was firm. "I don't take people as prizes." The crowd murmured, confusion and anger mixing in their voices. The announcer tried to laugh it off. "Ah, our champion is a merciful man. How entertaining." But Daniel could see the anger in the faces of the event organizers. He had broken tradition. He had rejected their rules. A guard stepped forward, hand on his weapon. "You can't just." Daniel moved fast. Before the guard could react, he grabbed his wrist and twisted it, making him drop the weapon. The other guards hesitated, unsure if they should attack the man who had just won the tournament. The Xilari woman took a slow step back, as if preparing to run. Daniel turned his head slightly towards her. "Stay close," he murmured. For a moment, she hesitated. Then, as if making a decision, she nodded. Daniel's heart pounded. He had just made a powerful enemy, but he didn't care. He had fought for his victory. Now he would fight for something greater, her freedom. With the arena in chaos, he knew one thing for certain. They had to escape. And fast. The city of Zelvar stretched before them, a glowing maze of towering buildings, flashing neon signs, and endless streets crowded with beings from every corner of the galaxy. Daniel and Ayla moved quickly, staying in the shadows, their footsteps lost in the hum of the city's chaos. Behind them, alarms blared. The tournament officials had sent out alerts. Guards and bounty hunters would be searching for them now. Daniel glanced at Ayla. She moved with silent grace, her golden eyes scanning their surroundings. She wasn't panicked. If anything, she seemed focused, calculating. "We need transport," he said. "A ship." Ayla nodded. "I know where to go." Daniel raised an eyebrow. "You do?" Ayla didn't answer right away. Instead, she turned down a narrow side street. Daniel followed, trusting her lead. The street was quieter than the main roads. The glow of holographic advertisements flickered on the metal walls, casting strange colors on Ayla's silver skin. She stopped in front of a darkened doorway and knocked twice. Daniel tensed, his hand gripping the stolen baton from the arena. "Who lives here?" A small panel on the door slid open, revealing a single, glowing red eye. A deep mechanical voice spoke. "Go away." Ayla didn't move. "Toran, it's me." The eye scanned her. A moment later, the door hissed open, and a large armored figure stepped out. The alien was massive, covered in thick plating with a single glowing eye in the center of his face. Daniel instinctively took a step back. "Friend of yours?" Ayla nodded. "An old ally." Toran crossed his heavy arms. "You have brought trouble, Ayla." His voice was deep, almost robotic. "We need a ship," Ayla said simply. Toran sighed, the sound like metal scraping against metal. "They are searching for you. Every bounty hunter in the city will be after your heads." He turned his glowing eye toward Daniel. "And who is this?" Daniel straightened. "Daniel Holt, the guy who just won the tournament." Toran let out a low, rumbling laugh. "Then you are a fool." Daniel smirked. "People keep telling me that." Toran shook his head but stepped aside. "Come in." Inside, the room was dimly lit and cluttered with mechanical parts. A large monitor displayed news reports. On the screen, Daniel's face appeared next to Ayla's. The headline read, "Wanted, Human Champion and Stuvolian Xelari. Reward, 50,000 Turedites." Daniel whistled. 50,000. I should have asked for a bigger prize. Ayla didn't seem amused. She turned to Toran. "Can you help us?" Toran hesitated. "There is one ship, a small cargo vessel. It is not fast, but it will get you off Zelvar." Daniel nodded. "That's all we need. Where is it?" Toran's eye glowed brighter. "The spaceport, but it is under heavy security now." Ayla placed a hand on his arm. "Please." Toran let out another sigh. "Fine, I will give you the access codes. But after this, we are even." Ayla gave a small nod. "Thank you." Daniel clapped his hands together. "Great. Now let's go before someone decides to collect that bounty." Toran handed Ayla a small device. "This will unlock the docking bay. The ship is in Hangar 6. If anyone stops you, do not hesitate to run." Daniel smirked. "Running is my specialty." Ayla didn't respond, but a small, almost amused expression flickered across her face. With that, they left the safety of Toran's hideout and stepped back into the streets. The spaceport was massive, filled with ships of all sizes preparing for departure. Security drones hovered above, scanning everyone who entered. Guards patrolled the area, their weapons ready. Daniel and Ayla moved carefully, keeping their heads down. They reached the docking area without being noticed. "There," Ayla whispered, pointing to Hangar 6. The cargo ship inside was small but sturdy, its engines humming softly. Daniel grinned. "Perfect." Just as they approached the entrance, a voice rang out. "Stop." They turned. A group of guards stood behind them, weapons raised. Daniel sighed. "Of course." Ayla pressed a button on the device Toran had given her. The hangar doors unlocked with a hiss. "Go," Daniel shouted. Ayla sprinted toward the ship while Daniel charged at the guards. He swung his stolen baton. knocking one aside before grabbing the second's weapon and twisting it from his grip. Ayla reached the ship's controls and powered up the engines. The ship rumbled to life. Daniel dodged a laser blast and leaped up the ramp. Ayla, now would be a great time to fly. The ship lifted off just as more guards rushed in. Laser fire streaked past them, but the engines roared, and they shot into the sky. Daniel collapsed into his seat, breathing heavily. Well, that was fun. Ayla turned to him. We are not safe yet. Daniel chuckled. Yeah, I figured. As the ship soared into space, alarms blared across Zelvar. Their escape had only just begun. The cargo ship shot through the atmosphere of Zelvar, its engines roaring as it broke free into the vast darkness of space. Inside, Daniel strapped himself into his seat, catching his breath. Across from him, Ayla's hands moved swiftly over the controls, guiding the ship with precise movements. We did it, Daniel said between deep breaths. Ayla didn't take her eyes off the controls. Not yet. Daniel frowned and followed her gaze to the ship's scanners. His stomach tightened. A red dot blinked on the screen. Another ship, moving fast. They're following us, Daniel muttered. Ayla nodded. Bounty hunters. The communication screen flickered to life, revealing a rugged alien with scared skin and piercing black eyes. He leaned forward, his voice cold and amused. You made quite a mess back there, the bounty hunter said. 50,000 credits is a nice price for a couple of runaways. Daniel crossed his arms. Sorry, but we're not for sale. The bounty hunter grinned. That's not your choice. The screen cut off, and almost instantly, the enemy ship fired. The cargo ship shook as a blast of energy hit the shields. Warning lights flashed across the cockpit. Daniel grabbed the chair's arms. Tell me we have weapons. Ella's fingers flew across the controls. Minimal. Daniel groaned. That's not the word I wanted to hear. Another blast rocked the ship. Ayla's golden eyes remained calm, focused. She shifted the ship into a sharp turn, dodging the next attack. The enemy ship stayed close behind. Daniel scanned the cockpit and spotted a small targeting system. Give me control of the turret. Ayla pressed a button, and a screen in front of Daniel lit up, showing the enemy ship in pursuit. A simple turret was mounted beneath them, weak but better than nothing. Daniel took the controls and aimed. Let's see how good my luck is today. He fired. The blasts from the turret struck the enemy's shields but did little damage. The bounty hunter returned fire, and the cargo ship shuddered violently. Shields at 40%, Ayla reported. Daniel gritted his teeth. We won't last long like this. Ayla's hands moved quickly, adjusting their trajectory. Hold on. The ship suddenly dived downward, spinning sharply to avoid another attack. Daniel's stomach lurched, but he held onto the turret controls. Now, Ayla commanded. Daniel fired again, this time hitting the enemy ship's right wing. Sparks flew, and the bounty hunter's ship swerved. Ayla took the chance and pushed the engines to full power. The ship shot forward, leaving the damaged enemy vessel behind. Daniel let out a breath. That was close. Ayla glanced at the scanner. The red dot was still there. They are repairing their ship. They will follow soon. Daniel ran a hand through his hair. Great. Any ideas? Ayla's golden eyes locked onto his. We go somewhere they won't follow. Daniel tilted his head. And where is that? Ayla turned back to the controls and adjusted their course. The navigation screen updated, showing a new destination. A dark, unmarked region of space. Daniel frowned. That doesn't look friendly. Ayla's voice was calm. It is not. Daniel sighed. Fantastic. With the bounty hunter behind them and an unknown danger ahead. One thing was clear. This journey was far from over. Daniel watched the navigation screen as their ship sped toward an unmarked region of space. The darkness ahead looked different from the rest of the galaxy. Deeper, almost endless. The stars that usually lit the void seemed to disappear the closer they got. "Are you sure about this?" Daniel asked, gripping the armrest of his seat. Ayla didn't turn away from the controls. "Yes." Daniel sighed. "That's not very reassuring." Behind them, the red dot on the scanner blinked again. The bounty hunter's ship was still following, slowly gaining on them. The damage they had done earlier hadn't been enough to stop him completely. Daniel leaned forward. Why won't he give up? 50,000 credits, Ayla said simply. Daniel frowned. Right, that's a lot of money. Ayla adjusted the ship's speed. We are close. Daniel stared at the blackness ahead. Close to what? Ayla's golden eyes flickered toward him. A place most fear. Before Daniel could question her, the ship suddenly trembled. The scanners flickered wildly, unable to process what was ahead. Outside the cockpit window, the space around them changed, shifting, twisting, as if reality itself was bending. What is this? Daniel asked, gripping the console. The void belt, Ayla said. A region of space where no signals pass through, no sensors work, and no one dares enter. Daniel's eyes widened. And you think this is a good idea? Ayla remained calm. They will not follow. Daniel glanced at the scanner. The bounty hunter's ship had stopped just at the edge of the dark zone. He wasn't moving forward. Daniel let out a breath. Well, that's a good sign. But then, the bounty hunter's face appeared on the communication screen again. His scared features twisted into a smirk. You think I'm foolish enough to enter the void belt? He asked. Daniel crossed his arms. I was hoping. The bounty hunter chuckled. Enjoy the darkness, human. No one who enters ever returns. With that, the screen went black. The bounty hunter's ship remained outside the void belt, waiting like a predator watching its prey walk into a trap. Daniel turned to Ayla. That didn't sound good. Ayla's expression didn't change. We keep moving. Daniel sighed. Of course we do. The ship moved deeper into the void belt. The further they went, the stranger everything became. The stars vanished completely. The ship's lights barely illuminated the space around them. It felt like they were floating in nothingness. The scanners continued to glitch. The communication systems shut down. Even the air inside the ship felt heavier. Daniel exhaled. This place is wrong. Ayla closed her eyes for a brief moment. When she opened them, she spoke in a quiet voice. We must be careful. Daniel raised an eyebrow. Careful of what? There's nothing here. A deep sound echoed through the ship, like a distant whisper, too low to understand. Daniel stiffened. What was that? Ayla didn't answer immediately. Her gaze was focused ahead. Daniel swallowed. Ayla. She finally spoke. Something. Watches. Daniel's heart pounded. He didn't believe in ghosts or curses, but this place made him question everything. Then suddenly, the ship's power flickered. The lights dimmed. The engines hummed lower. Daniel jumped up. Hey, what's happening? Ayla's hands moved over the controls. Something is interfering. Daniel glanced outside. The blackness seemed thicker now, pressing against the ship like a living thing. Another whisper echoed, closer this time. Daniel clenched his fists. Okay, I don't like this. Ayla didn't respond. She was focused, her breathing steady. Then, without warning, something moved outside. Daniel's breath caught. Did you see that? Ayla nodded. Yes. Daniel turned back to the controls. Can we get out of here? Ayla's fingers pressed buttons rapidly. I am trying. The ship shook again, as if something had brushed against it. The whispering sounds grew louder, circling them. Daniel grabbed Ayla's arm. Ayla, whatever you're doing, do it faster. Ayla's golden eyes met his. Hold on. She pressed one final button, and the ship's engines roared to life again. The vessel shot forward, breaking through the thick darkness. The whispers faded. The strange pressure in the air lifted. Then, just as suddenly as it had begun, they were free. The void belt was behind them. Ahead, the stars reappeared, glowing brightly in the vastness of space. Daniel let out a long breath. That was awful. Ayla studied the controls. We survived. Daniel rubbed his temples. Yeah, but next time, let's pick a less terrifying escape route. Ayla almost smiled. Perhaps. Daniel leaned back in his chair, exhaustion hitting him. So, where do we go now? Ayla hesitated before answering. Somewhere safe. Daniel nodded. I like the sound of that. But deep in his mind, he couldn't shake the feeling that something from the void belt had followed. Daniel leaned back in his seat, running a hand through his hair. His heart was still pounding from their escape from the void belt. The memory of the whispers and the strange presence outside the ship still sent chills down his spine. We survived, he muttered. Again. Ayla remained focused on the controls, her golden eyes scanning the ship's systems. The ship took minor damage, but we can keep flying. Daniel sighed. Good, but I'd rather not do that again. Ayla didn't respond, but there was something in her expression, something unreadable. Daniel sat up. You've been here before, haven't you? Ayla hesitated for a moment before nodding. Yes. Daniel frowned. And you didn't think to warn me about whatever that was. Ayla glanced at him. Would you have entered if I did? Daniel opened his mouth to argue but then closed it. She had a point. Instead of answering, he sighed and looked at the navigation screen. So, where exactly is this safe place you mentioned? Ayla adjusted the ship's course. A hidden station. It is not on most star maps. Daniel raised an eyebrow. And you know about it because... Ayla didn't answer immediately. When she finally spoke, her voice was quieter. Because I once had nowhere else to go. Daniel studied her for a moment. He wanted to ask more, but something in her tone told him not to push. All right, he said. Let's hope it's as safe as you remember. The hidden station. The ship glided toward a massive asteroid field. The rocks floated silently in the void, some as small as pebbles, others as large as mountains. Daniel frowned. You're taking us into an asteroid field. Ayla nodded. The station is hidden inside. Daniel shook his head. You really don't like easy paths, do you? Ayla ignored him and navigated carefully through the maze of floating rocks. She moved with precision, avoiding every spinning asteroid as if she had done it 100 times before. Then suddenly, a massive asteroid in front of them flickered, like a hologram. Before Daniel could react, their ship passed right through it. His eyes widened. What just? Then he saw it, a massive space station hidden behind the illusion of the asteroid. It was built into the rock itself, with glowing lights and docking bays stretching across its surface. Daniel let out a low whistle. Impressive. Ayla sent a signal, and a voice crackled through the speakers. Identify yourself. Ayla pressed a button. This is Ayla. I need a place to land. A long silence followed. Then, finally, Docking Bay 3 is open. Welcome back. The ship descended into the station, landing smoothly inside a hangar filled with various ships. The doors sealed behind them, cutting off the view of space. Daniel unstrapped himself and stretched. All right, let's see what kind of place this is. An old connection. As they stepped out of the ship, a group of people approached. Some were humans, others were different species, all dressed in worn but sturdy clothes. A tall man with dark skin and sharp green eyes stepped forward, his arms crossed. He looked at Ayla, then at Daniel. I never thought I'd see you again, the man said. Daniel raised an eyebrow. Friend of yours? Ayla nodded slightly. Tarek. Tarek studied Daniel for a moment before speaking. Who's the human? Daniel smirked. The guy who just escaped a bounty hunter, the void belt, and a deadly tournament. Name's Daniel. Tarek didn't look impressed. You bring trouble, Ayla. Ayla met his gaze. I bring a friend. Tarek sighed. We'll see about that. He turned to the others. Get their ship checked for tracking devices. Daniel blinked. Wait, tracking devices. Tarek gave him a sharp look. If someone follows you here, we all die. Daniel swallowed. Good point. Ayla turned to Tarek. We need supplies and information. Tarek nodded. Come with me. As they walked deeper into the station, Daniel couldn't shake the feeling that they had just stepped into a new kind of danger. He had survived the arena, bounty hunters, and even the void belt. But something told him that this place, this hidden sanctuary, held secrets of its own. Daniel followed Ayla and Tarek through the winding corridors of the hidden station. The place had a rough, unfinished look, metal walls patched with old plates, exposed wires running along the ceiling, and dim lights flickering overhead. Yet, despite its worn appearance, there was life here. People moved about, carrying supplies, fixing equipment, and talking in hushed voices. Daniel noticed a few glancing at him with suspicion. He sighed. It was a familiar feeling, being the outsider. Tarek led them into a small room with a metal table and a few chairs. He crossed his arms and looked at Ayla. You disappeared for a long time, he said, and now you show up with a human. Ayla met his gaze calmly. We had no choice. Tarek scoffed. There's always a choice. Daniel leaned against the wall. Look, I don't know what history you two have, but we're not here to cause trouble. We just need a place to lay low and figure out our next move. Tarek studied him for a moment, then sighed. Fine, but trouble has a way of following you, Ayla. Ayla's expression remained unreadable. We need information. Tarek pulled out a small device and placed it on the table. A holographic display lit up, showing various reports and maps. The bounty on both of you has doubled, he said. Whoever wants you captured is getting desperate. Daniel frowned. Great, that's exactly what I wanted to hear. Tarek continued. The bounty hunter who chased you is still waiting outside the void belt. He thinks you won't survive in here for long. Daniel crossed his arms. Well, he's not completely wrong. Tarek looked at Ayla. Why did you really come here? Ayla hesitated. Then finally she said, we need to know who placed the bounty. Tarek's expression darkened. That's dangerous information. Ayla nodded. I know. Tarek exhaled and tapped a few buttons on the device. The hologram shifted, revealing a name. Daniel narrowed his eyes. Who is that? Ayla's voice was quiet. A powerful warlord. Daniel groaned. Of course, because things weren't bad enough. Tarek leaned forward. This warlord doesn't just want Ayla. He wants something she has. Daniel turned to Ayla. And what exactly do you have? Ayla didn't answer immediately. Then, she reached into a hidden pocket on her belt and pulled out a small metallic device. It was round, smooth, and covered in strange markings. Tarek's eyes widened. You still have it. Daniel glanced between them. Okay, what is that? Ayla's golden eyes met his. A key. Daniel frowned. A key to what? Tarek answered instead. To something that could change the balance of power in the galaxy. Daniel let out a slow breath. Great, just great. A plan forms. Tarek leaned back in his chair. If the warlord wants this key, he won't stop hunting you. Daniel rubbed his temples. So what do we do? Tarek looked at Ayla. You could give it to him. Ayla's expression hardened. No. Tarek smirked. Didn't think so. Daniel sighed. So if giving it up isn't an option, what is? Tarek tapped his fingers on the table. We need to disappear. Fully. Daniel raised an eyebrow. How? Tarek grinned. Leave that to me. Ayla nodded. We trust you. Tarek chuckled. That's your first mistake. Daniel sighed again. Why do I feel like this is about to get worse? As if on cue, the station's alarm suddenly blared. A voice echoed through the halls. Unidentified ships approaching. Daniel exchanged a look with Ayla. Tarek muttered. And here we go. The alarm blared through the hidden station, filling the air with urgency. Red warning lights flashed along the walls as people ran to their stations. The once calm corridors now buzzed with activity. Daniel looked at Ayla. I thought this place was hidden. Ayla's golden eyes narrowed. It is. Tarek tapped his communication device, his expression tense. Report. A voice crackled through. 4 ships just dropped out of hyperspace. They're scanning the area. No response to our hails. Daniel's stomach tightened. Bounty hunters. Tarek shook his head. No, this is something else. Ayla glanced at the holographic display on the table. The approaching ships had no markings, no identification. Just 4 silent, dark vessels floating outside the asteroid field. They are waiting, Ayla said. Daniel frowned. Waiting for what? Tarek turned to the others in the room. Get the defense turrets online. Lock down all exits. One of the station guards hesitated. But Tarek's voice hardened. Now. The guard nodded and ran out. Daniel exhaled. So, we're trapped in here. Tarek smirked. You wanted a safe place, didn't you? Daniel rolled his eyes. Yeah, well, it doesn't feel very safe right now. Ayla studied the display again. They are not attacking. Daniel nodded, which means they want something. Tarek glanced at her. They want you. Ayla didn't deny it. She tightened her grip on the metallic key in her hand. Daniel ran a hand through his hair. Okay, let's think. If they're not shooting, maybe we can slip past them. Tarek raised an eyebrow. And how do you plan to do that? Daniel turned to Ayla. Didn't you say this station had another way out? Ayla nodded. A hidden launch tunnel. But it is dangerous. Daniel threw up his hands. Ayla, everything we do is dangerous. Tarek sighed. He's got a point. Ayla didn't argue. Instead, she pressed a button on the console. A new map appeared, showing an underground hangar beneath the station. Daniel's eyes widened. There's a whole second hangar down there. Tarek smirked. I said this place had secrets. Daniel shook his head. I'm not even surprised anymore. The escape plan. Tarek led them through the station, taking a path away from the main docking bay. As they walked, the alarms continued to blare. The station's turrets hummed to life, aiming at the silent ships outside. Daniel glanced at Ayla. You really think they'll just let us go? Ayla's expression was unreadable. No. Daniel sighed. Of course not. They reached a reinforced door. Tarek entered a code, and the door slid open, revealing a hidden passage leading downward. This tunnel leads to the secondary hangar, Tarek explained. But once you launch, there's no turning back. Daniel smirked. Sounds like every other plan we've had. Tarek clapped him on the back. You might actually survive this, human. Daniel grinned. That's the goal. Ayla stepped forward. Thank you, Tarek. Tarek gave her a serious look. Don't thank me yet. Just get out alive. A desperate flight. They moved quickly through the tunnel, reaching a small hangar with an old but sturdy ship waiting inside. Daniel whistled. She's not pretty, but she'll fly. Right. Ayla was already checking the controls. Yes. Daniel strapped in as Ayla powered up the engines. The hangar doors rumbled open, revealing a dark tunnel leading out to space. Tarek's voice crackled through the ship's radio. You've got one shot at this. The moment you launch, they'll know. Daniel clenched his jaw. Then let's not waste time. Ayla nodded. Hold on. The ship roared to life, shooting down the tunnel at full speed. The moment they emerged from the asteroid, the enemy ships reacted, turning toward them like hungry predators. Daniel's heart pounded. Here we go again. Ayla didn't hesitate. She pushed the ship forward, breaking through the asteroid field as the enemy ships followed. Laser fire streaked past them. The ship shook as a blast hit the rear shields. Daniel gritted his teeth. We need a way to lose them. Ayla's golden eyes flashed. I have an idea. Daniel groaned. I hate when you say that. But he held on tight as Ayla steered them straight toward the storm-filled nebula ahead. The enemy ships followed. Daniel muttered, "This just keeps getting worse." And then they disappeared into the storm. The alarm blared through the hidden station, filling the air with urgency. Red warning lights flashed along the walls as people ran to their stations. The once calm corridors now buzzed with activity. Daniel looked at Ayla. I thought this place was hidden. Ayla's golden eyes narrowed. It is. Tarek tapped his communication device, his expression tense. Report. A voice crackled through. 4 ships just dropped out of hyperspace. They're scanning the area. No response to our hails. Daniel's stomach tightened. Bounty hunters. Tarek shook his head. No, this is something else. Ayla glanced at the holographic display on the table. The approaching ships had no markings, no identification, just 4 silent, dark vessels floating outside the asteroid field. They are waiting, Ayla said. Daniel frowned. Waiting for what? Tarek turned to the others in the room. Get the defense turrets online. Lock down all exits. One of the station guards hesitated. But Tarek's voice hardened. Now. The guard nodded and ran out. Daniel exhaled. So, we're trapped in here. Tarek smirked. You wanted a safe place, didn't you? Daniel rolled his eyes. Yeah, well, it doesn't feel very safe right now. Ayla studied the display again. They are not attacking. Daniel nodded, which means they want something. Tarek glanced at her. They want you. Ayla didn't deny it. She tightened her grip on the metallic key in her hand. Daniel ran a hand through his hair. Okay, let's think. If they're not shooting, maybe we can slip past them. Tarek raised an eyebrow. And how do you plan to do that? Daniel turned to Ayla. Didn't you say this station had another way out? Ayla nodded. A hidden launch tunnel. But it is dangerous. Daniel threw up his hands. Ayla, everything we do is dangerous. Tarek sighed. He's got a point. Ayla didn't argue. Instead, she pressed a button on the console. A new map appeared, showing an underground hangar beneath the station. Daniel's eyes widened. There's a whole second hangar down there. Tarek smirked. I said this place had secrets. Daniel shook his head. I'm not even surprised anymore. The escape plan. Tarek led them through the station, taking a path away from the main docking bay. As they walked, the alarms continued to blare. The station's turrets hummed to life, aiming at the silent ships outside. Daniel glanced at Ayla. You really think they'll just let us go? Ayla's expression was unreadable. No. Daniel sighed. Of course not. They reached a reinforced door. Tarek entered a code, and the door slid open, revealing a hidden passage leading downward. This tunnel leads to the secondary hangar, Tarek explained. But once you launch, there's no turning back. Daniel smirked. Sounds like every other plan we've had. Tarek clapped him on the back. You might actually survive this, human. Daniel grinned. That's the goal. Ayla stepped forward. Thank you, Tarek. Tarek gave her a serious look. Don't thank me yet. Just get out alive. A desperate flight. They moved quickly through the tunnel, reaching a small hangar with an old but sturdy ship waiting inside. Daniel whistled. She's not pretty, but she'll fly, right? Ayla was already checking the controls. Yes. Daniel strapped in as Ayla powered up the engines. The hangar doors rumbled open, revealing a dark tunnel leading out to space. Tarek's voice crackled through the ship's radio. You've got one shot at this. The moment you launch, they'll know. Daniel clenched his jaw. Then let's not waste time. Ayla nodded. Hold on. The ship roared to life, shooting down the tunnel at full speed. The moment they emerged from the asteroid, the enemy ships reacted, turning toward them like hungry predators. Daniel's heart pounded. Here we go again. Ayla didn't hesitate. She pushed the ship forward. breaking through the asteroid field as the enemy ships followed. Laser fire streaked past them. The ship shook as a blast hit the rear shields. Daniel gritted his teeth. We need a way to lose them. Ayla's golden eyes flashed. I have an idea. Daniel groaned. I hate when you say that. But he held on tight as Ayla steered them straight toward the storm-filled nebula ahead. The enemy ships followed. Daniel muttered, "This just keeps getting worse." And then they disappeared into the storm.